Welcome back to the Explainer. So, today we're diving into this really fascinating behavioral quirk that honestly, you've almost certainly noticed. You might have even judged it, but you've probably completely misunderstood it. Have you ever looked at those highly successful people, maybe a famous creative, a tech CEO, or even just a super productive colleague, and wondered, why on earth do they wear the exact same outfit every single day? Well, today we're going to completely flip your perspective on this. We're looking right at the psychology behind the daily uniform. And as you'll see, this seemingly basic, maybe even boring wardrobe choice, it's actually a literal masterclass in brain optimization. Section 1. The daily uniform phenomenon. Beyond the wardrobe. Okay, let's dive right into this. So, why wear the exact same clothes? We're talking about a highly specific, really rigid habit here. It's not just having, a favorite lucky shirt. It's making this deliberate, conscious choice to adopt a personal uniform and basically never deviate from it. It's a phenomenon that goes way, way beyond the fabric itself and taps right into the core of how our brains actually operate. So I want you to really think about your own immediate reaction to this. When you see someone rocking the exact same gray t-shirt or, say, the classic black turtleneck every single day, what's your first assumption? Most of us have this knee-jerk reaction, right? We tend to view a rigid daily uniform as just kind of a weird eccentricity. We look at it through the lens of fashion, and we assume it's this bizarre limitation they've slapped on themselves. But what if we've been looking at it entirely backwards? What if this isn't a limitation at all, but actually a profound psychological liberation? Section 2. Myth. A lack of style. Reevaluating the choice. Let's look at this myth. Let's just confront that bias directly right here. We live in a society that places a huge premium on outward expression, so naturally when we see repetition, we jump to conclusions. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive disconnect between what we think we're seeing and what's actually happening psychologically. The common assumption, oh, they just have a lack of style, or they're lazy, or they just don't care about how they look. But the reality? The reality is entirely different. It's all about System 2 dominance. That is where the true psychological reality lives. Adopting a daily uniform has literally absolutely nothing to do with lacking fashion sense. Instead, it's this highly calculated, incredibly efficient strategy that's perfectly designed to trigger a very specific, very powerful state of mind. Moving on to Section 3, Managing Your Cognitive Bandwidth, the Brain's Capacity. To really grasp how a simple t-shirt can completely alter your brain state, we kind of need to look under the hood. Our brains are amazingly powerful, sure, but they are absolutely not limitless. They operate on a very strict energy budget. Enter cognitive bandwidth. This is the finite mental capacity available for processing information and making decisions. Now, the absolute keyword here is finite. You don't wake up with an endless, bottomless supply of mental processing power. Your brain's resources for making choices are super valuable and strictly limited. Every single decision you make throughout your day, no matter how tiny or insignificant it feels, draws from that exact same single pool of mental energy. Let's move to this next concept and see how this builds into a deliberate, everyday strategy. By actively bypassing trivial choices like, say, what outfit to wear, you immediately free up capacity. Step 2. Focusing that newly saved energy entirely on complex problem solving. When someone adopts a daily uniform, they are actively, intentionally managing their cognitive bandwidth. They take a daily mandatory task, getting dressed, and they just put it entirely on autopilot. By actively filtering out that trivial choice, boom, they immediately free up a significant chunk of their finite mental capacity. So they aren't avoiding fashion at all. Actually, scratch that. It's more like they are fiercely hoarding their brain power. They're protecting their energy so they can direct the whole shebang toward critical tasks and high-level thinking. Section 4. Avoiding daily decision fatigue, the cost of choosing. Because look, if you don't manage your bandwidth, there's a pretty severe penalty. What happens when we treat our mental energy as infinite, when we know for a fact it's finite? Well, we hit a wall. It's called decision fatigue. This is the mental exhaustion that occurs from making too many choices, which leads to a direct, measurable decline in the quality of your decisions. And honestly, this is the exact core problem the daily uniform solves. Think about it. Every morning, standing in front of your closet, debating between the blue striped shirt or the solid black one, figuring out matching shoes, checking the weather app one more time, all of these micro decisions act as a constant hidden drain on your mental battery. Literally before you've even walked out your front door, you have actively spent some of your absolute best cognitive bandwidth for the day. Because trivial daily choices drain so much energy, your outfits quite literally become a mental tax. You're paying a steep cognitive price just to put clothes on your back. But
By removing the choice entirely, you preserve your focus. By wearing the same clothes every day, these folks are basically just refusing to pay that morning mental tax. They're bypassing decision fatigue completely. And that proves this behavior isn't laziness in the slightest, it's a highly optimized, incredibly efficient cognitive defense mechanism.
Which brings us to Section 5, Achieving System 2 Dominance, the ultimate goal. So, the crucial point here, the ultimate payoff of this whole strategy is what our source material calls System 2 Dominance. This is a state where the brain actively prioritizes analytical, complex problem-solving over automatic, trivial reactions. To put it simply, in psychology, System 1 is our fast, automatic, emotional brain. It runs on instinct. System 2, on the other hand, is our slow, deliberate, logical, and highly taxing analytical brain. System 2 is the heavy lifter. It's what you use to write a book, code complex software, or, run a whole company. But because System 2 requires so much raw energy, it is ridiculously easy to derail with just a little bit of fatigue.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it frames the uniform itself. A daily uniform is literally a sign of System 2 dominance, where the brain prioritizes complex problem solving. Wearing the exact same clothes every day, it's a scientifically backed marker of advanced cognitive management. It's practically a physical manifestation of a brain that just refuses to be distracted. By ruthlessly eliminating those trivial System 1 choices, the person guarantees that their System 2, their powerhouse analytical brain, has the absolute maximum possible fuel to operate at its peak all day long.
It boils down to a very strict psychological trade-off. You simply cannot effectively prioritize both trivial choices and complex problem-solving at the same time. The people who wear a uniform, they've looked at this scale and they've made a decisive, calculated choice. They've recognized the massive evolutionary advantage of dropping the trivials so they can fully conquer the complex. They willingly trade variety in their wardrobe for just unparalleled focus in their actual work. It's a real game changer.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. If you eliminated your trivial choices, what complex problems could you solve? We've seen throughout this explainer that a daily uniform is way, way more than just some quirky habit. It's a powerful tool for achieving System 2 dominance and fiercely protecting your finite cognitive bandwidth. So as we wrap up, I want you to turn that psychological mirror on yourself. What mental taxes are you paying every single morning? And more importantly, what could you achieve if you claimed that energy back? Think about it. Thanks for joining me for this explainer today, and I'll catch you in the next one.